Joining us right now is Dan Koob. Dan is the host. He is also one of the producers as well of SportsTown. And basically what SportsTown is, it's the search for the best sports city in America and maybe beyond our borders, Mike.
Well, my first question for Dan is obvious. Dan is right here. Welcome to the show, Dan. How are you, Dan? You're already in the hot seat. Go ahead, Mike. Dan.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey guys, how are you?
There's no hi here.
There's no hello.
Right after
There's no hello.
Hold on. I thought I was calling in to talk about how the offense runs better with Tanner McKee. Is that?
No, that is not happening.
What we're talking about? Oh,
So,
sorry.
all right,
Permission to be treated as a hostile witness.
Here we go. You have this series trying to find the best sports city in America. What city comes in second to Philadelphia?
It's a great question. And as of right now, we're still trying to find out the answer, guys. SportsTown is truly the search for America's best sports city. And we just released our pilot episode Thursday that we shot in Lexington, Kentucky. But I will tell you that we are in pre-production on a Philly episode.
Ooh.
So maybe I can get your guys' thoughts on what basically accumulates, what accounts for the things that go into making a great sports town. But I'm appreciative of the time to talk with you guys. I mean, I've known you guys forever, so I really appreciate your support of the show as well. This is an idea from 4 Temple guys. My 3 producing partners and I have had this idea for well over 10 years, and it just never happened. You know, like life kind of gets into the way. And then in April of last year, we were kind of looking up and saying, like, you know, we're not getting any younger. Like, let's go do this thing. And we basically have created a show of incredibly high quality. I mean, our brand at SportsTown is high production, experiential sports content. And when you watch the show at SportsTownShow.com or on our YouTube page, you're going to see exactly what goes into that. But the show basically strives to provide and curate the perfect 24, 48, 72 hours in a lot of these sports towns around the country that you've probably seen on TV and have always wondered what it would be like to go there.
I love the pilot. I'll tell you, I watched it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dan, very well done. And I agree with you. It's funny. Mike can attest to this. I said to him before we were talking this morning, I said the production value is through the roof.
Yep.
It's incredibly well done. What I liked is, and I don't want to give too much away here, but you really do hit, at least, you know, in the pilot, you hit all the sort of key elements of a town like Lexington. Like, for example, you know, you think of Lexington, Kentucky, you think horses.
Sure.
Right? You think Kentucky basketball. You think bourbon, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. But I didn't know like how sort of booming the town was. And I like that you sort of it's absolutely driven by SportsTown. But you get a taste of everything else, like a real flavor of a city or a region, if you will. I thought you guys did a really good job highlighting that. I really enjoyed when you were admonishing a horse because the horse had lost you money in his previous life, if you will.
Yeah, so Epicenter in 22 was the second biggest betting favorite in the Kentucky Derby, which is like my Christmas day. I love the Derby. And unbeknownst to my wife, I bet a significant amount of money on Epicenter, only for the horse to lose to Rich Strike, which is the longest long shot in the history of the Derby, to win at 80-1. So we're hosting a Derby party in my backyard, and Epicenter gets chased down by this horse that wasn't even in the race the day before. Rich Strike only got into the Derby in 22 because of a scratch the day before. And I'm kind of losing my mind, and she's like, why are you freaking out with our neighbors here? And I'm like, well, I just lost us a ton of money.
Oh, man.
So knowing that, we go to the same barn in which Triple Crown winner American Pharaoh is there, Justify Triple Crown winner is there, and I see Epicenter, and I'm like, oh, my God, I hate this horse so much. And I walk up to the horse, and the horse, like, you can't plan this, guys. Like, the horse literally reached out and took a part of my elbow, just bit me. And, like, the cameras are rolling, and, you know, we're a family-friendly show. We're a brand-friendly show. So, you know, I kind of want to MF the horse, but I can't. So all I say is, like, well, now I don't like you even more because this horse just took a bite out of me.
It's not only that. The horse is giving you a look like, get out of my face, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be in fairness here, Dan. The horse did win the Kentucky Derby. Like, it's gonna be flexing a little bit.
No, it didn't. It came in second.
That's right.
Bet lost.
That's the one that lost.
Okay, gotcha. I'm sorry. You're talking about Epicenter. I forgot.
Well, all right, Dan. So what was the thing that at least as far as Lexington went that you didn't? I mean, you do your research obviously, but the thing that kind of jumped out at you, like, I didn't quite think that. I didn't put this together with Lexington, Kentucky.
So much of the show is just about like the people, right? And like how interwoven the team is to the fabric of that community. So like, yeah, sure. You think of it and you think, yeah, Lexington, University of Kentucky, yada, yada, yada. But, I think one of the biggest things about the show that we have found in our travels so far is just that, like, no matter if you're from Philly or Lexington or Green Bay, Wisconsin or California, like we're all so similar in the way that we approach our fandom for our particular teams, right? And that's like one of the cool things about the show is that we're really sort of pulling the curtain back and showing everybody that we're really not all that different. We all care about sports in this country. We are sports crazed. And we're just kind of putting like names and faces to what that looks like in that individual town and what makes that town unique. That's definitely been one of the more interesting things about it. But, as it pertains to Lexington, I'm a bourbon guy. So the opportunity to kind of cruise around and go to 5, 6, 7 different distilleries and just kind of like hear the story, the individual stories of like how they all started, how they're all operated. Like they each have their own like history-rich story behind them. It's tough to fit into 22 minutes if you couldn't do it. But that was, for me, was the best part.
Dan, I've been to Louisville and I did exactly the same thing, took the bourbon tour. And you're right. It's interesting how the texture of a particular city and the history of a particular city plays into its sports culture and fandom. How ultimately are you guys gonna judge what the best sports town in America is? Or is there a certain standard? Are there certain criteria that you're using?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it is. It really is the accumulation of everything, right? Like it's the in-game atmosphere. Does your team win? Right? Like we've all been to the bank, in the after 2011, that run was over the Phillies, like when it's a quarter full. Right, like your team has to win. There has to be juice around town. That's really important. The in-game atmosphere has to be on point. But also, if you're watching the show and you're considering going to any of these towns, you have to be able to fill that time. So it's where do you eat? What are some unique places to stay? What are some unique things to go see? And I'll tell you right now, like we are in pre-production on a Philly episode. You're not going to see the Rocky. You're not going to see the Art Museum steps. You're not going to see Pat's and Gito's. Like we're not going to run through the Italian market. Like this episode of SportsTown for Philly is going to be the if you know episode. Like you're going to watch this and you're going to say, yes, these guys are clearly from Philly because they obviously understand like what is the national perception of something and what is something that actual locals want to do and want to go to. And that's really the mission. Like we want to curate the perfect sports weekend for people so that when they watch it, they feel as though they don't have to do any homework. They could just say, you know what? I do want to go to Lexington. I do want to go to Philly. Let me just hop on those sites and like book that trip right now.
That's cool. And I'm fascinated between the dynamic. Like Lexington obviously is centered around, Kentucky,
right.
the school. And, you were there at the basketball game in the fan section and the student section and all that kind of stuff. That's awesome.
And can I say, and not to cut you off, but like, look, I'm 35. I'm married. I have gray in my hair. To stand next to 19-year-olds for like 3 hours was maybe the most eye-opening part of the entire experience.
Yeah, on a lot of levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
understood. Where I was going, how do you draw the distinction between the quote-unquote college town versus Philadelphia, where not to say you don't have the colleges, you do, certainly, but also has the pro
or
element.
a New York or a Chicago Boston, or a big city.
Yeah, I think we really want to prioritize interesting, unique experiences, right? Like it would be super easy to go to a Birds game. Not to say that we wouldn't do that, right? But it all kind of falls on like where in the calendar is our production schedule, what is going on, right? So a great example of one of the questions that I got a lot was like, why would not go to Louisville? It's a bigger city. They have more stuff. And it's like, well, the Derby is also there. So like if we're going to do an episode of SportsTown there, I want to see the Derby. I want to go to Indy for the 500, like I want to go do fun, unique sporting events. So like for Philly, we're kind of spoiled, right? Like we have so many opportunities to do things. So like I think a summertime Phillies game makes a lot of sense, like leveraging the sports complex down there. Like let's just double dip. Like let's do a Phillies game if they're in the playoffs and then go to an Eagles game. Let's do a Phillies afternoon game and then go to Wells Fargo for a concert. Like we're certainly not going to show the Sixers, I'll tell you that right now, for the next 10 years. But, like a double dip down at the sports complex, like I don't know how many cities can lay claim to something like that. So like those unique opportunities are what we really look for as we kind of look around the country.
So if you're willing to say, Dan, you've mentioned Lexington, you've mentioned Philly, you mentioned Green Bay in passing. Can you tell us some of the towns that you went to?
Yeah, so the ones that are on the docket right now are, obviously, Lexington episode is out right now at SportsTownShow.com. Go check it out. Philly is this summer. Green Bay, Wisconsin is coming up in September. We're going to go up there and tailgate with the fans up there in Lambeau. Buffalo, New York is coming, and I've already kind of like primed my family. Like, I am jumping through a flaming table. That's just what we're going to do.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm on team content, right? It is a show after all, so I got to do it. And then, we've had discussions with a lot of other, we don't want to just like over rotate on NFL, NBA, right? So there's going to be a really fun mix of college towns, professional towns, and even like unique stuff that I don't want to give away just yet. So it's really going to be a different experience every episode you tune in to SportsTown. But I will tell you one place we will never go. We will never go to Duke.
Oh,
I
was going to say another city that starts with or a D, another D, but I got you.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to go to Dallas either.
Okay,
but when we were pitching the concept, a year plus ago, we had pitched it to a bunch of different towns, including Phoenix. We're going to go to the Waste Management Open, and they were open to it, but just didn't work out for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
Lexington was like, yes, please come do this. Kentucky basketball, to their credit, most wins of all time, second most national championships in like 20 minutes. They're like, yup, come over.
Oh, that's cool.
Duke was like, well, call us when you get picked up by Netflix.
Oh,
man.
That sounds dookie. That sounds Dukish.
Dukiest answer of all time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're never going to Duke.
Did they actually have J.J. Redick call you, or was it someone else affiliated with the university?
No, he wouldn't call you directly. He'd have one of his people.
Yeah, good
him.
point.
Yeah.
I actually think they had an intern call me.
So sounds about right.
This isn't even worth our time.
It sounds about right. All right, so Dan, let people know. Like, this is. I know this is kind of interactive. Like, you can make your pitch right for your city. That kind of like how does it work? How they can do that, and also how they can see this, listen to it, etc.
Yeah, and again, appreciate the time, guys. Yeah, SportsTownShow.com. You can find links to every single thing, including the premiere, and also a form to fill out to convince us as to why we should go to your sports town. Obviously, IP, an institution in Philly. And when we do the Philly episode, like, we've got to figure out a way to get IP on the episode, too, because, like, you can't explain the sports experience in Philly without WIP.
Yeah.
So go to SportsTownShow.com. That's our handle on all of our socials as well. And if I could just quickly, we are completely independently funded 100% by the 4 guys who make the show. And we've had almost 25,000 views on SportsTown's first episode in 2 days. So that's not like the miracle of the Meadowlands level miracle, but to me, like, that is a miracle. So thank you to everyone who has watched it, has talked about it, has shared it. And please check it out, engage with the show. We're pretty engaging guys. We put out a lot of content. And we look forward to seeing a lot of you when we're shooting this summer.
All right, SportsTown, and they can go to SportsTown, you said .com to check it out?
SportsTownShow.com.
SportsTownShow.com. All right, cool. All right, awesome. Dan, appreciate it, man. It's good. Look, I think Mike and I can relate to how goofy this business is, man.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see that you're doing something that you're enjoying that is really well done. I'm thrilled for you, man. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your support and appreciate the time.
You got it, Dan.
All right, Dan,
thanks.
take care, man. That is Dan Koob. And again, SportsTown, SportsTownShow.com.
It's an awesome idea, and it really has the potential to be great, I think, to open people's eyes to what else is out there, especially in a market like Philadelphia. We're so fixated on ourselves all the time. The idea, I got friends of mine, the guys who just saw the Led Zeppelin movie with me, a couple of them are going to Clearwater next weekend.
Nice.
And we were just having this conversation. They're like, Mike, you've been down there before. Like, where should we go? What should we do? And I think a show like this, in a way, like, is entertaining. Of course, it's great for sports fans, but it's going to solve a problem. It's like, oh, okay, I had never thought about going to Lexington.
Now I got my
something.
checklist.
Right. Oh, I got to go there. I got to see a Kentucky game. Got to get some bourbon, whatever the case may be.
I love it. Like, I was saying to you before the show, I watch a show called True South.
Yeah.
On the SEC network, which is Wright Thompson
and John Edge.
John Edge, also narrates it and is sort of the lead guy and writes in it as well. And it focuses on all the schools and the towns that in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it's all SEC. Mostly
I think you're
SEC.
right. Yeah,
but and they go a little bit more into the culture of the really hardcore into the food or something like that, or the farming, or all that kind of stuff. Whereas Dan, I think it's a little bit more sports element, but he really does give you everything. Like, for example, in the first episode, it's horse racing, it's bourbon, it's the food there, the food scene, which is booming in Lexington, and then going to a Kentucky game.
So it's interesting. 3 or 4 years ago, my wife and I and our 2 sons took a vacation where we flew into Nashville, drove to Louisville, spent a couple of days in Louisville, and then drove back to Nashville to spend a couple more days there. On a Saturday in Louisville, we went to Churchill Downs.
Oh, nice.
They have an incredible horse racing museum. And then, and this is kind of the value of what Dan's going to do with the show, we had no idea about this. We stayed at Churchill Downs to watch the horse races and bet on the horse races. And on a Saturday in Louisville, when the weather is good, that is what people do.
Yeah.
They don't walk around the downtown. They get dressed up. You saw couples on dates. You saw group outings. It was $5 to get into the racetrack.
Awesome.
And you just hang out all day and bet the races. My younger son, Gabe, who was 7, I think, at the time, won money on a horse, I kid you not, named Love Me Some Me after T.O. So it was a great day, cool. But I never would have known that had I not happened to go to Louisville, and this is what this show's going to do.